The following video is one in a series on spiritual resilience training, a non-religious view of personal values and their dynamics with others. The contents reflect a variety of principles and practices of systems theory and relational counseling for team building and family resilience. Although the series is intended to support Army Corps values, each video also encourages the viewer to reflect on their current prominent values in specific situations and to consider what values may be more appropriate to means and results that are honorable and helpful with others. Chaplain Dillard initiates creating and posting these videos. Their contents and YouTube's linked videos do not necessarily reflect specific beliefs, practices, requirements, or endorsements of the Department of Defense, its subordinate organizations, or other groups with which Chaplain Dillard is affiliated.
Welcome back. If you saw the previous video series, you know that we were just talking about inner conflicting values, different things within us that pull us in different directions and make it difficult to make decisions. Today we're going to start another brief series on competing values, when something that we treasure seems to be at odds with something someone else wants, whether that be our spouse, our boss, our friend, whoever. Well, let's take a look at some of the common venues of competing values. Family members can compete for different values. For example, how much money or time should we spend on whatever you would name? Whether planned fun or spontaneous fun is usually better. What household chores fall to who or to whom and why? Work members can compete for different values. Who will do the bulk of the preparation? Who will do the execution? Who will follow up? Which projects are higher or lower in priority, and by how much? Where should we meet regularly, because that's going to establish an appearance of equity or power. Social friends can compete for different values. What's the nature of the relationship? Is it short-term or is it long-term? Who decides where to go and how often? And when is it okay to spend time with other people and how? All of these are different places or venues that we can have what feels like competing values. And sometimes it's just a perception, sometimes it's a reality, but you know what they say, perception is reality. And this is what competing values can feel like. When we tug in different directions, we feel like they're going to pull us into something dangerous. We ourselves don't see the second and third order effects of having it our way, but a true tug of war between truly self-focused people is always a lose-lose. We simply have to look for win-win alternatives for both of us. As I just mentioned, competing values can be an actual conflict, or it can be a perception. Let's look at some examples of those. One of the types of struggle is when we have actual competing objectives. One of us wants greater freedom for our child, the other wants greater safety for our child. One of us wants speed and decision making, the other wants depth and accuracy for decision making. One of us wants more time alone versus the other person who wants more time together. But we can also have perceived competing objectives. We believe they want more control, but they really just want more respect. We believe they want an answer, but they simply want us to understand them. We believe they want to blame us, but they just want to fix the problem. If you saw last week's video series, or the last 3 weeks of video series on inner conflicts of values, you know that our personal values, ours and others, are formed in many, many ways. Here's a summary picture to remind you. You can refer to the previous videos for an explanation of this picture. And you know that over time, only a few of those become our personal core values. Now, these 5 are not the 5, the top 5 are my 5, they're just an example of 5. But when we are in conflict with someone else, they always have something that they want to achieve, something that they value. And we're tugging for our will and they're tugging for theirs, or at least it seems that way. Where does that come from? What are we supposed to do with that? Well, let's take a look at some other insights here that may be helpful to you. There are specific dynamics that fuel competing values, whether they're actual or perceived. For example, they have future goals or a singular goal. They strongly believe that they need to have something. It could be control, care, recognition, punctuality, information, leadership, many, many things. There's possibly an infinite number of things that they may value as an actual end goal or a means to that goal. And they have a history. They measure what could happen by past successes or failures with that specific value. So if they're looking for your attention, then if that's their future goal, they look back and they measure, have they had your attention before? Have they had others' attention before? How well did that go, or how well did that not go? And that can either give them a sense of confidence and appropriate assertiveness, or it can make them feel hesitant, sad, fearful, and they might either panic and back away, or they might become very aggressive. And based on that future goal and history, they choose a present action. And their actions may feel threatening to one or more of our values. Now, obviously, we can't see into the other person's head. We can't read their heart. We can see their actions and we make some assumptions. But something about their action triggers a warning bell in us that what we value may be at risk. And there are several possibilities about us that make us more likely to be triggered and to be reactive instead of proactive. For example, we may have some self-doubt and believe that we must have others' approval or we are worthless. We may be geared towards self-protection. I've got to take care of me because nobody else will. Or self-soothing. We may believe that it's wrong for us to suffer in any way, so we need to avoid any type of conflict in us or between others or with others. We may even be self-deluded. I can avoid my responsibilities. There is a way out of this. Or self-promotion. I can and should have total control. All of these things can be a perfect storm for competing values with somebody else. Again, whether that's our spouse, our kids, our co-workers, our boss, our subordinates, our friends, our neighbors, even a stranger at a checkout counter. But just as there seems to be a tug of war illustrating the problem in competing values, there's a different picture that can illustrate what right should look like. And that is to find common values to climb for common goals. Tune in next week and we'll look at some specific ways of what wrong can look like. I think it's important that we see how this can play out before we conclude our three-part series in what right can look like. And I hope you'll join us then.
At the release date of this video, I am stationed with Research Development and Engineering Command, RDECOM, at Aberdeen Proving Ground, Maryland. Because the majority of our personnel are in this area, I spend most of my time here. I do, however, travel to our distant units based on command priorities and budget. I place these videos on YouTube for broad visibility to Army personnel and their families, but I hope the videos will be helpful to others too. If you are assigned to RDECOM and want to request specific topics by video, training on site or by VTC, or confidential counseling on site or by secure webcam, you can contact me at jeffrey.d.dillard.mil@mail.mil.